Alright, hello guys, and welcome to my first ever video. My name's Carl, and this is my cat Loki. Say hi, Loki. So this video is going to be about the most common Enneagram MBTI combinations. So I'm going to go through the list of the 16 MBTI types and go over what the most common Enneagram type is for each of them. So I'm going to try to make this as concise as I can and just kind of go through them fairly quickly. So we'll start with the ESTJ. ESTJ, the three most common Enneagram types for them are 8, 3, and 6. So based on my research, and most of my conclusions were drawn from Thought Catalog. They have a page where they have the frequency based on surveys they've taken or whatever it was for the most common Enneagram types for each of the 16 MBTI personality types. So based on that, by far the most common type for ESTJs was type 8, Enneagram type 8. And 8 wing 7 is definitely the most common. 8 wing 9 ESTJs probably aren't very common. The second most common Enneagram type for ESTJs would be the 3. In terms of wings, I'm not really sure. I would guess probably 4, but I could see it going either way. And then third would be 6. I'm not actually sure how common ESTJ 6s are, but being that they're one of the SJ types that have that high introverted sensing, the introverted sensing is their auxiliary function. So I would guess that it's probably not uncommon for there to be an ESTJ 6. And I wrote down for an example for ESTJ 8 wing 7, I believe Kevin O'Leary, if you ever watched Shark Tank, he's Mr. Wonderful. He's definitely an 8 wing 7. I'm like 99% sure of that. Personality database, most people have him as an ESTJ. Some have him as ENTJ. I think probably ESTJ 8 wing 7 is what he is. All right, next we have the ESFJ. The most common by far for them is the 2, type 2. The wing 3 would be the most common wing for them, 2 wing 3. And then also 6. I think 6s are probably a little bit more common for ESFJs than they are for ESTJs, although I'm not sure. And again, it's mainly because of that high introverted sensing. Introverted sensing is very much connected to Enneagram 6. Most of the Enneagram 6s you'll see will be in one of the SJs or the ISTJ, ESTJ, ESFJ, ISFJ. And then next we have ISFJ. The most common type for ISFJ is 6. Again, your introverted sensing is their dominant function, so that makes sense. The second most common would be 2, and the most common wing would be 1 for that, so 2 wing 1. And then ISTJ, the most common for ISTJ is actually 1, with a 9 wing would be the most common wing for that. And then 6, which makes sense again because of the SI. 6 wing 5, more common than 6 wing 7. And Thought Catalog has a decent amount of ISTJs as 5s, which I guess makes sense. I'm not really sure if that's accurate or not. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of ISTJs out there. It's one of the, if not the most common MBTI type, so I'm sure there's probably plenty of ISTJ 5s to be found out there. And the most common wing would definitely be a 6 wing for the ISTJ 5. The next 4 I'm going to do are the EP types, extroverted perceiving types. And for them, 7 is by far the most common for each of them, I believe. And I think that's due to the dominant extroverted perceiving functions. So you got the extroverted intuition and extroverted sensing as the dominant functions for them. And the thing about those two functions, the NE and SE, they're very kind of optimistic, always looking for something new. So and that's very much how the Enneagram 7 works, so that makes sense. So starting with the ESTP, most common for ESTP again, 7. 7 wing 8 being by far more common than 7 wing 6. And then second most common you would be 8, and 8 wing 7 would be the common wing with that. For ESFPs, again 7. I'm not really sure about the wing. I think 7 wing 6 and 7 wing 8 are both probably about equal for ESFPs, but I'm not really sure. And then for yeah, that's the camera, Loki. The second most common for ESFPs would be 2, and wing 3 would be, I think, by far more common than 2 wing 1 for ESFPs. For ENTPs, 7 again, the most common. 7 wing 8, I think, is more common than 7 wing 6 for them. And then much like the ESTP, the 8 wing 7 would be the second
most common Enneagram. Then you have ENFP, again 7, and just like with ESFP, I think the wings are probably pretty close, between 7 wing 6 and 7 wing 8, so I'm not really sure which one is more common for them. And also like the ESFP, 2 wing 3 is also very common for ENFPs. You also have common for ENFPs would be 4. That's not as common, but I think it's fairly common. You see a decent amount of them out there. I think 4 wing 3 is more common than 4 wing 5 for ENFPs. And I have listed as an example Chester Bennington. He's the lead singer of Linkin Park, passed away a few years ago. But I believe he's an ENFP, and I believe he's also a 4 wing 3. So he's an example of ENFP 4 wing 3 singer-songwriter, which that definitely goes with the whole 4 thing. And then we have ENTJ. So much like with ESTJ, ENTJ most common Enneagram is going to be the 8. 8 wing 7 I would think would be far more common than 8 wing 9 for them. Second most common would be 3, and I believe 3 wing 2 would be more common. At least that's what they had on Thought catalog. 3 wing 2 over 3 wing 4 for ENTJ. And Gordon Ramsay, I'm pretty sure he's a pretty solid example of an ENTJ 8 wing 7. Then you have ENFJ, most common to be 2, with a 3 wing more common than the 1 wing. And you have 3 is the second most common with a 2 wing, more common than the 4 wing. Then INTJ, most common Enneagram would be 5, with wing 6 a little bit more common, but I think you do get plenty of INTJs with 5 wing 4. I think the 4 kind of, you see a decent amount of that in INTJs, at least I do. I don't know, I mean, let me know in the comments if you disagree with that. Okay, next we have INFJ. So this is kind of a tricky one. INFJ, pretty much no matter where you look, you're gonna see that the most common Enneagram for INFJs is 4 wing 5. But I don't know, I'm not entirely sure that that's really accurate. It's a very complicated issue because INFJs are thought to be one of the, if not the rarest of all the 16 types. A lot of people who are, at least what I've heard, a lot of people who are actually INFPs misidentify as INFJs, and most INFPs are 4 wing 5s. So it makes sense that if that's the case, that a lot of people identifying as INFJs would be also identifying as 4 wing 5s because they're actually INFP 4 wing 5s. That's kind of just a theory. I think it has a good basis. I mean, I don't know. If you guys have thoughts on that, let me know what you think. But yeah, I think 4 wing 5 makes some sense for INFJ because the whole introverted NF thing they got going on. If you know about the shadow or unconscious functions, FI would be, or introverted feeling would be the critic function. So some people might make the argument that because they have FI critic, that is why 4 is so common among them. Maybe, I don't know. But aside from that, 2 would be the next most common for INFJs, and very well might be the most common type for INFJs. 2 wing 3, I think maybe a little bit more than 2 wing 1, although it's probably close. Doing 2 wing 1 and 2 wing 3 for INFJs. Next we have ISTP. They're TI-DOM like INTP, so 5 of course is going to be the most common for them. 5 wing 6 more than 5 wing 4. And then second most common, and not by too large of a margin I don't think, would be 9 for ISTPs. 9 wing 8 by far more common than 9 wing 1 for ISTPs. And then next we have ISFP. Most sources would probably say that the most common Enneagram type for ISFPs is 9. And I think that's probably true, but I think 4 is probably close, and very well may be that 4 is actually in reality more common for ISFPs. And the only reason I say that is because Enneagram 4 is just very closely related to introverted feeling, FI, which is the dominant function of ISFPs as well as INFPs. And in INFPs, I don't think anybody really argues that 4 is by far the most common type for INFPs. So I don't know, I think that's probably a good thing to debate about, study whether the 9 or the 4 is more common for ISFPs. But for 9, the 9 wing 1 I would imagine is more common than 9 wing 8 for ISFPs. And then 4 wing 5 I think is more common than 4 wing 3 for ISFPs as well. And also 6 is supposedly a fairly common type for ISFPs. Again, 6 is most closely related to SI, so SI wouldn't even be in the conscious stacking for ISFPs. So that, I feel like that one might be debatable whether that's actually a common one or not. If so, the 6-wing 5 would probably be more common than 6-wing 7 for ISFPs. Many songwriters, singer-songwriters are ISFPs, specifically ISFP 4s. Lane Staley, the lead singer of Alice in Chains, former lead singer, I guess now it's Jerry Cantrell, since Lane Staley died, but Lane Staley, definitely think he's a 4-wing 5 ISFP. And I think ISFP 9s, 9 is a very creative Enneagram type, so I think ISFP 9s can also often be seen as singer-songwriters, musicians. Then we have INTP, most common for INTP being TI Dom, like ISTPs, be 5. The ISTP though, I believe that 5-wing 4 is more common for INTPs than 5-wing 6. And 9 is also a fairly common Enneagram type for INTPs. Not sure about the wing on that one. I think it could probably go either way. Finally, last but not least, INFPs. Of course, like I've said at least once or twice so far in this video, the most common by far for INFPs is 4-wing 5. 4-wing 3 probably isn't rare, but 4-wing 5 definitely the most common. INFP 9s are also pretty common, I believe. 9-wing 1 over 9-wing 8, but I do know of a very famous example of a 9-wing 8, at least that's how he's most commonly typed, and that'd be Keanu Reeves, INFP 9-wing 8, if I were to guess, and that's what Personality Database has and what other sources would probably say he is. And also for INFPs, I do think 6 is a relatively common Enneagram for INFPs, but I'm not really sure. I don't know anyone personally, any INFPs personally that are 6s. I do know some that are 4s and 9s, but not 6s. Apparently they're fairly common. And yeah, of course, if you know probably the first thing about INFP personality type, there's so many singer-songwriters and actors who are 4s. One of the most famous examples is Kurt Cobain as being an INFP 4-wing 5. I'm still not entirely convinced that he's an INFP 4-wing 5. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's a 4-wing 5. A lot of people have him typed as a 5-wing 4. I'm not really sure where I see that, but INFP, some people say he's INFJ. I don't know, but most commonly typed as an INFP 4-wing 5, Kurt Cobain. And INFP 9s, like I said, Keanu Reeves, INFP 9s are also probably commonly found as actors and musicians as well. Oh, and I wanted to touch on a few other points. Enneagram 4 is very common among the IFPs, so ISFPs and INFPs. And this is clearly because of the dominant FI, introverted feeling. And like I said, introverted feeling is very closely related to Enneagram type 4, so that only makes sense. 9 is fairly common among the IPs, the introverted perceivers, ISTP, ISFP, INTP, INFP. And I think this is because of the inferior extroverted judging functions. So FE inferior for INTP and ISTP, and TE inferior for INFP and ISFP. I think that's why 9 is common among them. And finally 2, Enneagram type 2 is common among the extroverted feeler types. So ESFJ, ENFJ, ESFP, ENFP, as well as the IFJ, so INFJ and ISFJ. And that's due to the high FE in the FJ types. And for the ENFP and ESFP types, even though they don't have FE, they are extroverted feelers. So I think that strongly mimics FE in a lot of ways, and so that would explain why 2 is pretty common among ESFPs and ENFPs as well. So that's all I have. To be honest, a little bit longer than I had anticipated, but hopefully you enjoyed it, maybe learned something. If you have any comments, if you agree with some of what I said or disagree with what I said, maybe you have different opinions, maybe you have data to prove me wrong, I'm open to anything and everything in the comments. So thanks for watching.